All right, without me wasting any time, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks once again for availing time to join us during the Startup Huddle. I'm Mahlatse Tolamo, the Ecosystem Enabler at 22 on Sloan, and thank you once again for joining us during the Startup Huddle titled The Importance of Using Technology in Your Marketing Strategy. Before we start, please note that the chat function is enabled so that you can share any comments that you may have, and then there's the Q&A option where you can also send any questions you'd like to ask our panelists. Within the session, there will be a Q&A section where you can ask our panelists any questions, and also at the end. So Startup Huddle offers a unique program designed to educate, engage, and connect entrepreneurs. It is important because it serves as a safe space for all entrepreneurs to share all their challenges. And within this huddle, we try to find opportunities and we try to find solutions that startups will use going forward in their businesses. So without any further ado, please let me introduce our panelists, Lebo Lion, Cassandra Moodley, and Malebo Ngope. Without me wasting any time, Cassandra, please introduce yourself and what you do, and just give us a bit of background information about you.
Hi, everyone. Firstly, Mahlatse, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to 22 on Sloan. It's really a great honor to be on this panel today, especially with people like Malebo and Lebo Lion, who are super well known in this field. And as someone kind of starting out, it's really such a privilege to be here. So thank you so much. So my name is Cassandra. I work as a project coordinator for the Splendid Group. We're a company that has diverse interests, with our main entity being Splendid Marketing and Communications. And so basically with Splendid Marketing, we have a wide range of public and private sector clients. So we do a broad spectrum of marketing and communication services. We're a bespoke agency. We're 100% Black woman owned. And so, yeah, that's really my background in marketing. Yes, girl. So that's really where my background in marketing comes from. But personally, my background is in international relations, and I have a keen interest in policy and governance. And so coming into the marketing space has been quite daunting, but it's been an incredible journey and one that I'm still on, and I'm still learning and still growing. And I hope that today I'm able to just give some hope to young entrepreneurs and people who are in this space and are starting out in a startup environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cass. We worked in the same building, and yeah, we've been in the same journey of the struggle in the marketing industry. But yeah, I'm glad that you're here in support of us newbies in this space. So Malebo, please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your business.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Malebo Ngope. I am a brand strategist at heart. I studied internal marketing communications at AAA School of Advertising, and that's basically where my love for marketing and brand management started. I then decided to marry who I am and what I love to what the world has become today, which is digital marketing, and then came up with MLB Digital. MLB, which is myself, Malebo Digital, is where we are right now in the world. And we offer a number of services from social media marketing, web development, user experience. So we just like to think of ourselves as a data-driven marketing partner. We're an agency, but we like to use more the word partner because all our clients are family. Most of our clients are individuals, artists as well. So I just like to think of the company as more of a family, and that's basically who MLB Digital is. We also offer a number of branding services and brand strategy services. We are based at 22 on Sloan, so it's really nice to be part of that family over there. So myself, as I said, yes, I'm a brand strategist. I'm a photographer myself. So I'm an all-rounder, and my clients like to call me a go-to girl. So I just like to make things happen, and so does my team. So it's really great to be here today to speak to people who are here on the Startup Huddle and just share some of the things that that we notice as we grow these businesses. And yeah, it's really amazing to be here. Thank you so much, Matlati. And I hope people learn a thing or two while we're here today, because yeah, some mistakes we don't need to make. We can just follow what other people have done and then just do it the right way the first time. So yes, I hope everybody learns something, and that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, Malebo. And I have to also say that Malebo has also been played a key role in helping me find my way around this marketing field. And yeah, thank you, Malebo. And lastly, Lebo, please introduce yourself and just tell us a bit about the work that you do. Hi, Lebo, you are mute.
My bad. Let me start that again. Hi, everyone. I am Lebo Lion, the voice of marketing, SMME growth strategist, and I'm the host of a podcast called the Lessons with Lion podcast, where I basically give you the tools, the digital marketing tools that you need to help your business get to the next level. We also have inspiring and really elevating conversations with guests in the industry like Sylvester Chauge. And the whole purpose of the podcast was to help small businesses access learning resources that they would have never had the opportunity to access or the budget to afford, you know. I'm also the founder of an agency called People, and that's basically just brands and people. So we're all about making the connection between brands and people solid. We're about creating really great customer experiences through technology, through campaigns, and through different tools. So I'm really excited to be here. And also, I guess how I link into the whole Gen 22 spaces, I recorded my first segment of the Disruptors series of my podcast at Gen 22. They were actually my venue partner for the podcast. So really cool venue. I'd recommend that you go there if you haven't. It's a really, really cool space. So thank you for having me. And I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you very much, Lebo. I guess we're a Jan family right now. So thank you to our attendees for joining us. So within this huddle, we'll focus on providing helpful tools of marketing technology, identifying challenges that make content marketing difficult in today's media-driven industry, and most importantly, the future of marketing in a technology-driven world. So once again, if you have any questions, please send them through to the Q&A function. And if you have any comments, please use the chat function. So let me start with the dirty questions. Lebo, so many businesses are realizing the importance of digital transformation to drive efficiency. Seeing that you have experience with being a social media strategist and SME growth strategist, how has technology been helpful in your marketing strategy to realize this growth?
Thank you for asking me that question. And before I answer that question, I actually just want to add a bit of spice there and say, are companies actually realizing the value of digital transformation? Or are we still at the back end of that? Is it still a slow process, and are companies still having to be convinced that they should be trying to put digital into their marketing strategy, into their marketing campaigns, and into their marketing chains? I think a lot of companies are really struggling with the idea of online technology, digital. I think it's still really intimidating for them. And I think we've got a long way to go in Africa before we can actually say that companies are taking digital transformation seriously. But what you are seeing is that in the small business landscape, because of budgetary constraints, because of geographical constraints, a lot of businesses have to consider digital. They have to consider other ways of doing business that are cheaper, that are faster, and that make it easier for them to reach their ideal customers. So for me, I found that with digital marketing and social media, the value is in its reach. You know, the fact that once you're online, once you have a social media account, you are a global business. You're no longer just trading where you are. You're trading in the world. There are over 3 billion people online, and any one of those people could be your customer. So it's about breaking those geographical boundaries. And now you can literally, you can find your customer anywhere in the world. And that's really powerful, because it means that your ability to do business isn't limited by where you come from or where you have to do business. It's just limited by how much access you have to the internet. And luckily for us, it's actually not that hard to get access to the internet. If you have to compare the cost of like a plane ticket or, you know, a train ticket or data to get online, it's a much cheaper cost. So that value of it not breaking down geographical boundaries is a very, very big deal. And also the reach, you know, the fact that you can reach so many people at one time is the golden nugget of being online. It's the golden nugget of being digital, you know, being completely technological in how you do things in your business, especially as a small business, because you want to make sure that people are seeing you and they're hearing you. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of noise traditionally, so in the normal spaces in real life, and there's also a lot of noise online. But the beauty of it is there's so many tools and so many cool things that you can do. And I think content marketing is one of those things that we're going to talk about later, that allow you to penetrate, that allow you to be seen, that allow you to trade as a business in a way that was never possible before. So for me, digital is really important and impactful because it's breaking down the barriers to business. It's breaking down the barriers to entrepreneurship. And that's really, really important. Our country is hungry for creativity, it's hungry for talent, it's hungry for businesses. And we've got so many regulations and so many political, economic challenges that make it hard for somebody to start a business traditionally. So when you think of your business in a technological way, in a digital way, and you leverage those tools like social media, like email marketing, like SEM and SEO, and have websites, it gives you a competitive advantage, but also it protects you a little bit from the economic, political, etc. challenges that you would have to face that are happening in your country. I hope I've answered your question, because I know I like to go on and on.
Yes, definitely you have. You've went even above. So Cassandra, your experience is mostly focused on civic education policy and governance. Since working at Splendid Marketing, how has your growth journey been like?
That's such a loaded question, because it's been an incredible journey. I don't know if there's even enough time in just this discussion for me to elaborate on my growth journey, but I've come from a completely different field, and just sort of exploding into the field of marketing has been insane. I've realized that as much as there's a science to it, it's very learnable. And I think when I first came into this field of marketing, I was so sort of caught up in just the jargon and the technicalities of things, but I've learned so much about how integral marketing is to any organization, to any brand, to any person. I mean, half the time we're marketing ourselves with our social media profiles, with the things that we put out into the world. And so I think the biggest thing that I've realized is understanding your product, understanding your brand, understanding who you are, and identifying your unique selling point is the core of marketing for me. What I've realized is, sure, really, this is such a loaded question, but what I've realized is that if you want to start having a conversation about marketing, start having a conversation about what it is that you're trying to sell. Who are you? What is your brand? What is at the core of what you're doing? I think so many of us, especially in the startup space, and this is not taking shots at startup at all, but I think when we look at startups, we're so often bombarded by, we're doing this in 4IR and there's AI integration and there's all these complex solutions that we're offering. But how do you simply explain what it is that you do? And marketing is really a tool for your business to understand very simply and very essentially what it is that you do, because you can't market something that you can't explain. And so for me, that's been a huge part of my growth journey, is really getting to the core of everything that we do. when it comes to a public sector client, what is the essential service that they're offering? What is, when it comes to a brand, what is their unique selling point? And it's actually such an incredible life lesson as well, because personally, it's given me an opportunity to say, if I'm going to market Cassandra Moodley, who am I? What is my unique selling point? What do I bring to the table? Marketing's fascinating. It's constantly changing. It's so dynamic. It evolves every day. It's reactionary. It's proactive. You know, there's trends forecasting where we look at what can we expect from 2021 after this great reset. But I think we're in such an amazing time that we're seeing how reactionary marketing is. And it's like Lebo mentioned, are we really looking at digital transformation for all that it is and all that it can be? Or are we now in a position where we've been forced to actually recognize that, you know, digital is the future, it's now and it's to come, and how do we react to that? I think that's been one of the great things that COVID has done, and learning about marketing in the context of COVID is that things change really, really fast. And brands react to that. I love that KFC dropped finger licking good, because the market and the conditions of our environment forced us to change. And so I think, yeah, just coming into it, it's been an amazing journey. It's a lot faster. It's a lot faster than anything else I've done before. Obviously, with international relations, things change fast, but policy is slow. You know, governance is slow, and marketing it's on the pulse, man. And I love that. I love that. I love that we're always learning. Obviously, for me, it's a lot deeper because I'm really starting from the beginning. But I think for anyone in this field, there's just an opportunity to constantly evolve, constantly change with the markets and updates. So that's been my growth journey in a tiny nutshell. Yeah.
Thank you, Cass. And I think what I've learned as well through my marketing journey is that, you know, marketing, most people relate marketing as just posting on social media, as just, you know, just that. And we don't realize that the job that actually goes in the marketing strategy, what you see out there, the brand. So it's a lot. And it's an exciting part of any business, because it yields a lot of growth if done well. So yeah, so Malebo, the areas of marketing which have been transformed by digital are speed, relevance, and reach of campaigns. How do digital technologies such as AI contribute to this marketing?
AI and marketing. AI, I think it completely changes the way that every brand does business. If not more, the way that us as digital marketers provide a service for our clients. Because as Lebo was saying, it's not a lot of people understand the magnitude of digital transformation yet. You still need to convince people. And us as digital marketers, we're at the forefront of so many softwares, so many tools that we can use to monitor behavior. Different times to monitor purchasing, the way that a customer makes a purchase. You know, we speak about the word user experience a lot in marketing, and it's exactly that. It's the user's experience, and convenience has become such a huge thing. So AI helps us in managing that convenience, but in also making that convenience so much more convenient, because you don't have to spend so much more time doing focus groups and doing, you know, spending a whole lot of money on information, where we could just do it at a click of a button, where a machine literally does that for you. A machine realizes for you, okay, this is what this person likes. And so if there's anything further you'd like to market to this person, then now is the time to do it. So because the machines know that, okay, Malebo is into this sort of brand right now. And all of a sudden, all the brands are after me right now. That is artificial intelligence at play. And it really, really does change the way that we as marketers do things, but it also should also change the way that brands look at consumer behavior and the way that brands see a whole lot of things that are happening out there. AI helps us to monitor trends. As Cassandra also said, the world is moving so fast. The trends are changing every day by the minute. It helps us to see that so that we can be adaptable to what is happening right now. So we can be flexible and change our strategies to meet where the consumer's mind is. Because trust me, you will spend so much more money marketing all the wrong things to your consumer than spending money on a digital agency that can tell you this is what your consumer's thinking, where their spending patterns are, and then that's where you market. So that's the really amazing thing about artificial intelligence. And yes, I hope I've answered your question. It's all about the user experience.
Thank you. Also adding on that, Malebo, so which applications would you suggest people to use if they can't afford a digital agency, or which applications do you think would be relevant for this?
Well, Google is a very big platform. That is the biggest one. So if you have a website, then Google Analytics is the tool that you can use to measure and to report as well, to see where spending patterns are, how long people are spending on your website. You know, certain small little things that could turn your customer away, that could make that user experience so much so less that your customer wants to get out of your website in the first 2 seconds. So things like Google Analytics will give you so much information. Just that one platform will give you so much information about your website. You know, as agencies, we use the more advanced platforms, but Facebook itself has a lot of insights. Instagram itself has a lot of insights. So if you can't really afford an agency, the best thing to do is just to learn your way around around what you do have and around what's free. So yeah, I think use Google.
Mahlatsi, can I add something to that quickly? Is that okay? Thank you, Malebo, for your point. And just to add to Malebo's point, I'd like to reiterate the idea that marketing is all about creating value for the customer, right? And technology doesn't automatically just create value, right? The technology helps us understand our customers better. So it's a tool. Technology is the tool that we use to help us understand our customers better, but it isn't the value that we create for our customers. So the value comes in strategy. The value comes in sitting with your team and figuring out, if my customers say they like to eat crisps at 2 a.m. at night, how do we deliver that to them? You know, and a machine can't tell you how to do that. Technology can't tell you how to do that. People tell you how to do that. So yes, technology is really important, but we must never forget the human element. The people are the ones who say, okay, because it's COVID, let's drop the finger licking good. You know, a machine, it can't do that for you, but they can just go out there and figure out, what are people saying? What is, you know, what socially, what are people doing? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? It gives you those numbers. It gives you the metrics, but it cannot tell you how to offer the solution. It can only give you what the problem is and, you know, what you can do, but it can't give you the solution. So I think we need to understand that marketing is all about delivering value to the customer first. And we use technology to be able to understand what our customers' problems are or discomfort is, so we can provide the right solutions to that discomfort or whatever the problem is, and, you know, maximize on whatever we're trying to do, achieve our marketing objective. It's human before it is technology.
Thank you for that. If you guys have any questions, please drop them on the Q&A box below. So Lebo, linking that to what you just said, what are the trends that you've noticed and where can people find these opportunities?
Sheesh, that's a hectic question actually, because when you speak about technology, there's so much, there's AI and then there's, social media, and there's so many different kinds of technology that we're actually using to achieve our marketing objectives, right? So I think for the purposes of this talk, I'm going to talk about social media because I think Malebu's more of an expert on the AI side of things, right? From a social media perspective, I think what we're seeing in South Africa, particularly, specifically, is that a lot of companies are starting to rethink how they do social media. So because of COVID and the fact that people weren't leaving their houses and brands couldn't do what they were traditionally doing, they've had to rethink how they reach the customer. And one of the only ways that they could find to reach the customer during COVID was through social media, was through Zoom events, was through email marketing and things like that. And before, what we saw is that corporates weren't placing a lot of value on their social media. So what they do is they would hire a graduate, and then they'd say to them, come and you'll manage our social media accounts. And then during COVID, they realized that that doesn't work because this person is fresh out of varsity. They don't actually understand how to make social media a business tool and a strategic tool. So we actually need higher level, higher thinking people to run these accounts. And we actually need a lot of talent on these accounts to make them work, So corporate flipped how they perceived social media and how they perceived technology. And there seems to be more of an openness to using technology and to using social media in marketing chains and in marketing strategy. So that's a good thing, right? Those are the trends. But what I'm seeing with social media is that of all of the social media platforms that exist, brands are still putting a heavy emphasis on Instagram. And what we saw on the social media 2020-2021 report is that what happens in this country specifically is that brand managers will only work with social media influencers on platforms that they're already on. So because a lot of brand managers are already dwelling on Instagram, they just naturally find influencers on Instagram. And so that's why you're seeing that, especially in South Africa, social media influencers stemming mainly from Instagram. So Instagram is still a big tool that brands are using. And what they've done is they've partnered with a lot of agencies that can help them have better listening tools on these platforms. So if you've done any social media influencing campaigns before, you'll know that when a brand approaches you, they'll say, okay, cool, we'd like your login details because we want to insert this software, this program into your social media platform so we can read and monitor and listen to what happens when we're posting your content, your promotional content on social media. So I think it's becoming smarter. And I didn't do this with brands before 2020. In 2019, brands were just picking you because of the number of followers you had, and they weren't even listening. They didn't care about, your metrics. They didn't care about engagement and that kind of thing. They were just like, oh, you're famous. You've got a lot of numbers. We're going to work with you, And now, because budgets are down, budgets are being cut, people can't leave their houses. COVID makes things very uncertain. People need to have valid reports to give to their bosses to substantiate and to motivate why they have to do the marketing that they do. So you're finding that there's a growing importance and a growing acceptance of technology in marketing and just understanding marketing and social media better. So if you're working with brands, Instagram is still the place. Instagram and brands are plugging a lot of money into the Instagram landscape. And even if you want to sell to brands, so let's say you have a product or a service that you want to sell to brands, Instagram is where you need to be. That's where the brand managers are. And they're open to conversations. They understand the platform, so they're willing to go with it. And we've also seen on Instagram the introduction of Reels, for example, that's changing the game, and it's also competing with TikTok. So a lot of marketers are sitting there and thinking, what's best to use? Do I use Reels? Do I use TikTok? And I found that conversation really interesting because for me, social media is about who's on it, not what social media are we using, So Instagram has a completely different market to the TikTok market. Instagram is more millennials and older people, and then TikTok is Gen Z and below. And the attention span, what we're seeking, the kind of value we're looking for on those different platforms is very different. So for marketers, I'd say whenever you're using a technology and a social media platform, just remember, I don't even know why I said that because social media is a technology in itself, but whenever you're thinking of a social media platform to use, you should think about about who is on it, not necessarily what social media platform do we want to use, because the person or the customer is who you should be driving your campaign objectives, right? Because you're trying to get them to sell, you're trying to get them to buy into your brand. So we should always use social media based on who's using it rather than what social media platform it is. But Reels have really changed the game for TikTok, and they really, bring up some competition that's, I think, much needed in the social media landscape. And what you're seeing is people are enjoying using the Reels, and the engagement is going through the roof. So we're getting new influencers coming out. We're getting more of that comedy content that you're seeing on TikTok and on Twitter. You're seeing it more on Instagram now because of things like Reels. And you're just getting more content creators. And you're also seeing that a lot of tech companies are leveraging off of the short attention span, quick consumption culture that we have nowadays. And that's a trend to look out for, that if you're going to create some kind of technology or some kind of monitoring tool, or you even want to, you have a business and you want to do something with it on social media, understand that people's attention is limited and that a lot of the content they want to consume has to be very quick. Which makes the content creation process really complex. And you have to take a lot of time strategizing and investing in it because of how people consume social media content. And then LinkedIn is on the rise. If you are a small business and your business is B2B especially, you need to be on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is on the rise. It's one of the fastest growing social media platform, and it's the biggest database of professionals in the world. So if you want to work with a CEO, if you want to get a hold of the CMOs, you want to get a hold of brand managers, that's where they are. And the beautiful thing about LinkedIn is they're trying to grow. So it's really easy to be on there and grow. All you have to do is leverage on the virality of it, which is the hashtags. Plug yourself into a hashtag and you'll be trending on LinkedIn from sharing any content that's valuable about your business or about yourself. So I think if you are new to social media, you don't understand how it works, go on LinkedIn. And you want to do business online, go on LinkedIn. It's simple to use. They've also just introduced stories, actually, which is also just, reiterating that idea of fast, easy to consume content, quick, and video. I think video is at the root of all of this. Video is growing in value. It was valuable before, but now it's like gold. It's everything. If you don't have a video production, video strategy in your content marketing, then you're not going to win. You need video in your marketing strategy to make it work, especially online, because people are just visual people. And I think video it catches better than anything else. And video is universal. I don't have to be able to read your language to understand what your video is showing me, so you can penetrate a larger audience, and that's very important. I think I could go on, but I don't want to hog the day. So should I stop there, or what should I do? Hello?
No, you can carry on. Hi, you can carry on because there's someone that's been asking you to expand on Reels, and what platforms would you suggest for social entrepreneurship?
Great. Social entrepreneurs. There's so many popping up in South Africa and on the African continent, which is quite interesting, actually. And it's cool to see that so many people actually want to bring solutions that help their communities and help other people. So it's not just business, it's business with a conscience. And I'm for that. And I think when you're doing business with a conscience, especially on the African continent, you need to be looking at Facebook. Facebook is the best community building tool in Africa because it's the easiest to access, it's the cheapest to access in the sense that it's not as data intensive as the other platforms are. And what you find on Facebook is that they've kind of leveraged off of all of the best parts of all the other social media platforms, right? So you can have a store where people pay on Facebook. You can monetize your videos on Facebook. You can grow a community and find different niches within that community and create all of that on Facebook. Like Facebook is the hub, especially in Africa, because in Africa, people are still learning how to use social media. So when they're on board onto the online space, they go to the places where they can meet people they know. And Facebook is that prime, it's the base. Everyone goes on Facebook to meet their friends, to talk to their friends or people that they know. So it's safe for them and they don't feel as intimidating figuring it out and trying out Facebook, right? And also Facebook has that element of virality with the trending topics and that kind of thing. So if you have something to share, you can always easily plug yourself into something that's trending on Facebook. And then Facebook has stories. I mean, Facebook literally has every single element of every app in the one social media platforms. So for me, Facebook is like a mall, you know, you can access everything on Facebook. It's not my favorite platform, but it's definitely great if you're trying to build a community, especially for social entrepreneurs. What you do is all about the people. What you're doing is all about the cause, and the cause is the conversation. So your community has to be people who are about that conversation more than anything else. It's not a superficial thing. It's all about the conversation, and usually the community is made up of people who want to add to the solution, you know. So I think Facebook has that kind of customer profile on Facebook than other platforms than other social media platforms. Sorry. So I'd say use Facebook. And then in terms of Reels are basically Instagram's competitive offering to TikTok, because TikTok saw a lot of growth through COVID. And before COVID, people thought that TikTok was just a platform for like teenagers, you know, for them to dance and post silly memes and jokes. But then COVID hit and people got tired of just staying at home, consuming the same content that they consume, the long form, boring, you know, laborious kind of content that they usually consume as adults. So they migrated to TikTok because it was quick, it made them feel good, it made it easy to consume, and it was, you know, the quick element I think is the most important part. So people migrated to TikTok very easily, very quickly. But what we saw is that older people who went to TikTok didn't necessarily have accounts that they would use to produce content. They just opened accounts so that they could view content. And so even if you're selling on TikTok, you have to understand, you have to think as a brand, am I selling to the content creators or am I selling to the content consumers? Because those are two different things and you need different strategies for that. If you're selling to the content creators, you might be doing that because you want them to create content with whatever you have to offer. And you want that content to trend so that the consumer can see it, you know, and then share it on their own platforms. Or you could just directly be marketing to the consumer. So the person who has the account but maybe isn't producing content, and that's a different strategy that you'd have to use. And you're doing that because you believe that that person sits on that platform and they're open to the conversation of buying and buying from you. So it's very different, but I wouldn't recommend TikTok for social entrepreneurs who aren't very good at content creation, because even though those videos look fun and they look short and quick, they take a lot of work to produce, you know. But if you want to be on TikTok because you might be a young social entrepreneur, you feel like you don't want to produce LinkedIn type content or Facebook type content, you can just hop on to the virality. And I keep saying this because that's the easiest thing that entrepreneurs can do. Hop onto virality. If you don't understand marketing, hop onto virality, that hashtag. Whatever is trending, hop onto it on any platform and sell whatever you have to sell. Join. If you're on TikTok, join the movement, put your product in the movement that's happening. Hop onto virality. Virality is key because virality is where you access a community that's engaging and participating now. So that's the best. You want that. You want people to be participating and engaging now. They're going to see your product now. They're going to ask you questions now. And you can make more informed decisions from that engagement. But yeah, that's what I have to say about it.
Thank you very much, Lebo, because yeah, I've learned quite a bit of things right now. So with Cass, what are some of the tools that have helped you since you're new in this marketing space?
Before I start with that question, I just wanted to add to what Lebo was saying, specifically with social entrepreneurship. When it comes to raising awareness, sorry, Beverly, I think that was you who asked the question. What I think TikTok does really well is it's great for disseminating information. So if you're not looking to make money and really you have a page, maybe you have an Instagram page or a Facebook community, and part of that is just raising awareness on an issue, I think TikTok is great for that. We've seen it work with a number of movements where people have started, I can't remember what country the young lady was from, but she would do these makeup tutorials to kind of hide behind the algorithm and then start disseminating information from a war-torn country. And it was an incredible platform for her to just get the word out there really quickly and kind of fly under the radar, because we do know some countries have issues with censorship, but we will not get into the international relations policies on that. But just as an add-on for all of that part. So yeah, I think coming into the space, we definitely want to talk about technology and how it can help and what are the different tools. But my first thing I would say is that use technology to gain information. There's no better way to integrate yourself into marketing than to learn, because knowledge is power. You're going to come across a lot of these conversations where people are talking about data analytics, and there's a lot of jargon that's being used. And I don't think there's a single tool you can start to use until you understand what marketing is, what is the science behind marketing, what is customer behavior, what is the sales funnel. First and foremost, use that technology to gain an education. And obviously, learning online is never going to be the same as actually going and studying for this. But I think that you're doing yourself a huge disservice by just trying to jump in and start to go through Google Analytics and start going through Google Search Console and things like that. Even on those tutorials, which they are very explanatory and they do take you through a step-by-step process, I think understanding fundamentally what is marketing, what is digital marketing, is really the best base, and it's been the biggest help for me. So looking again at startups where there are budgetary constraints and maybe you can't take that UCT online course, whatever the case may be, LinkedIn Learning has a bunch of free resources, and it's been really helpful learning from experts. I mean, if I want to learn about marketing, why am I not learning from the people who market for LinkedIn or Google? And the information that's out there that's freely available is probably the best tool that you can have. And so that would be the first thing that I would really emphasize and drive home on. Use technology to learn about the technology you're going to use. Use the technology to learn about the field that you're trying to enter in. People are digital marketing specialists and marketing specialists for a reason. There is definitely a science behind it. There is definitely hardcore evidence to prove that taking certain steps will result in certain outcomes. And not knowing all of that would be doing yourself a huge disservice. So don't go into it blindly. My first and foremost, use technology to gain insight, understanding, and sort of the theory behind marketing and digital marketing. And then once you're done with that, and you can never really be done. I'm still deep in the middle of a 40-hour course that's going on Google at the moment, but it's so helpful. And even if it's repetitive, the repetition is helpful because there's so much information and knowledge to consume. Sorry, I'm just checking a question. Okay, no, sorry, Beverly. We'll get to that. So that would be my first huge takeaway in terms of technology. 2 courses that I recommend. The LinkedIn Intro to Digital Marketing course was really, really good. It's not long at all. It's a 4-hour course, but it is jam-packed with information, jam-packed with resources, really tangible things that you can start implementing from day one. A lot of background information, a lot of just getting to grips with the basics, because it's the basics that are going to help you scale. It's the basics that are going to help you break into market, and it's the basics that are going to help you kind of understand what it is that you're doing as a marketer. And I would use that word very loosely for someone like me. Well, not for someone like me, but for someone starting out. I would very cautiously, as a growing into becoming a marketer. And then once you're in there, once you've got the basics down, it's like Malebo said, Google is amazing with the amount of tools that they have. And it's really been a help for me because I could start playing around with it, and it really is trial and error. So when you're starting out, I would just make note that you're starting to build your database, you're starting to build data. So don't be afraid to play around with it. Don't be afraid to take different angles and figure out different attribution models, which are all terms you'll come to learn. The Google Search Console for me was a great starting place when it comes to your website, which is still huge in currency when it comes to digital marketing and is your first sort of online presence. When it comes to your website, understanding simple things like how functionality affects the user experience. If I'm looking at your website on my computer versus if I'm looking at it on my phone, is the uniformity? Does it immediately respond? Is it a responsive website? And Google Search Console really helps you understand how Google looks at websites. You want to make sure that you're ranking somewhere near the top. I don't know if you've ever been to the second page of Google search. I've never. Like if you're not on the first page, I don't know, I'm not finding you. And so Google Search Console will help you understand what are they looking for you to be ranked on that first page. What are the keywords that customers associate with your product or your brand or your website? And that really for me was a huge learning curve. It's not so much about what you think your brand or your website is about. It's about what the customers are associating with it. So for example, if you're a company that offers coffee beans, you might think that, just typing in coffee is sufficient, but what are some of the affinities and what are some of the keywords or phrases that people are associating with it? They're looking for fair trade, they're looking for organic, they're looking for single origin. And so really understanding at the basics how marketing works and how customers think is super, super important. And then adding the tools onto that later, because it's like Lebo mentioned, the tools are just there to be tools. At the end of the day, you need to understand the human side of marketing and you need to understand the human side of humanity. And so there are a bunch of tools, and I'll probably get to them a little bit later on, and I'll pop them in the chat as well. And there's a bunch of free resources that you could use for different types of marketing. If it's email marketing and you don't have a budget, you could use HubSpot, it could be Canva. And I can get into that a little bit later, but I think the real emphasis is use technology for information first. Make sure you're learning, make sure you're coming to webinars and learning from people like Malebo and Lebo. Webinars have been huge. Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce have webinars that are free to attend. So important to learn from the best in the business. And it's like Malebo, you mentioned earlier, there are a bunch of mistakes we don't need to be making. And it's when we're having these kinds of conversations that we're able to pick up on those things. And so, yeah, I'd say before we start diving into technology in terms of what are the actual tools that we're using, make sure you're using technology to learn first and foremost.
Yes, there's a question for you from Munira. The LinkedIn Intro to Marketing, is that on the LinkedIn Learning platform?
It is, Munira. So when you go into LinkedIn, there's a tab on the right that says Working. And when you go down, there's a drop-down menu, and then there's a section that says LinkedIn Learning. And when you get to that section, yeah, there is a LinkedIn course, the Intro to Digital Marketing. And then there's a much longer one, which is becoming a digital marketing specialist, which I also recommend. But yeah, start with the shorter one first. It's really comprehensive.
Thank you very much. And there's a question from Anonymous. So this is for all of you. I'm in the recruitment space, and with COVID, we have to change the way we conduct business. How can we market our service offerings using technology, or what marketing strategies can we consider to meet the current consumer needs? So who would love to start answering that question?
Okay, I'll start. Thank you for that question. I think with marketing, it's all about, and Cassandra touched on that, it's all about being conscious of what's happening in society. It's all about knowing what your customers are living, their lived experiences, their lives, you know? So she made that beautiful example of KFC where she said they removed the finger licking good because of COVID. And it's about creating strategies that show your customers that you're aware of what they're experiencing, you're aware of the world that they live in, and that you're a company that lives in the same world and is trying to make that world a better place to be in. So when you're marketing, you don't market the features, you market the benefits, you know. And a lot of times companies, when they tell you about, you know, come work with us or come consume our product or whatever it may be, they tell you about why it would be so great. They don't actually market the benefits of, you know, you'll feel happy here. I know that's a terrible example, nothing's coming to my mind right now, but it's more about communicating to the person what it is they feel and want and experience. It's not about what you think they need or what your company has to offer. It's not as on the nose as that. It's about understanding that person's lived experience and then communicating how your product plugs into that lived experience and makes it better. So there's something that I always talk about on my Twitter and on my LinkedIn. And it's called the PSSP framework. And I always use it when I'm coaching to help small businesses understand if their product or service is commercially viable online. So when they're going to create campaigns to be online, they use this thing to figure out, is my business actually, or my product or service actually commercially viable online? Will people want to talk about it? Will they want to know about it? Or is it boring them? And the PSSP framework is really simple. It's just PSSP. P is the problem. S is the statistic. The other S is solution, and then P would be product or offering or service. So basically, I ask people to fill it out. What is the problem that's in the market? So let's say the problem is during COVID, people are less productive. Okay, and then what's the statistic? The stats have shown that 50% of employees have been 35% less productive since COVID started. That's the stat. Then what's the solution? You can provide meditation music to people through streaming apps that allows them to feel more productive and, you know, do better work. Okay, cool. And then what's the last P? Product or offering. So your service or your product. How does your product help them do that? You answer those questions. If you can answer those questions, it should be one line or two lines, very simple, very quick, very clear. Like Cassandra was saying, it's all about being clear. If you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, then you've gone off the path. It needs to be simple and clear in your mind. And if you can't make it clear in your mind, or you can't make it simple when you're writing it down, it's because you haven't refined what you're offering enough. You have to refine them. That PSSP process not only helps you determine whether your product or service is commercially viable for the online space in terms of you being able to sell it and communicate it online, but it also helps you understand if you have a clear understanding of your product. Because if you don't, it will show in your content. It will show in the kinds of communities you're trying to build online. It will show in how you're finding customers. It will show. So you need to understand that. Use that framework. It's very short. It's very simple. Keep changing it. Keep iterating. It works and it helps. So once you figure it out, that last P, my product or service does X, Y, Z. That can even be what you use as your descriptor on your bio on your social media assets, because that should be able to communicate to the customer what it is that you are, how you help them in their lives, and what value you bring, you know? So for me, the strategies, we can't give you a strategy. Like I can't say do X, Y, Z, but what I can say is when you are creating a strategy, remember that it's always about the customer. And when you choose a social media platform, choose a social media platform where you already exists and lives. But if you feel that your team doesn't have the skills or the digital maturity to handle that platform, don't go there. Go to another platform that you think you can build better and find your customers there. Because what happens is when you are using a platform really well, customers come, you know, and they spread your message to other platforms. And what I've seen with a lot of companies is they'll use social media based on what we say is trending or we say is great. And then they're not consistent on it. They don't use it well because they actually don't like it. It bores them. I'm bored by Facebook. I do not use it for business. People say I should, and that's great, but I won't do it right now because it bores me, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I've been able to secure enormous brand deals from Twitter and from Instagram and from LinkedIn. You know, so you really have to use the platforms that work for you. And in your strategy, remember, social media is very transparent. You know, a lot of brands think that social media is this tool that you can use to trick your customer or have great graphics and, you know, great videos, and then customers are going to be excited and they're going to like what you're offering. But a lot of the time, it actually shows people what your true values and beliefs are as a brand, because it's going to show in the conversations that you're plugging yourself into on social media. It's going to show, you know, if Black Lives Matter is trending and you don't say anything about it, it says something about your brand on social media. So social media is very transparent and you have to be very intelligent in how you use it. Don't think that the online customer, the digital customer is stupid. They are very informed. And even if they aren't, there'll be somebody who's informed who disputes what you're posting on social media. So you have to be very, very careful with what you post online. So your strategies have to be smart. They have to be, relevant. They have to plug into what's happening, and they have to consistently communicate your brand values and beliefs. And they also have to be collaborative. Like, work with people who also embody your brand's values and beliefs, you know, that further reiterates what you're about. And it also gives you access to that influencers community, which helps you grow online and helps you have strategies that actually can have some kind of impact and meaning. I really believe that, you know, any business that's created from meaning is a business that will thrive. You don't think about money, you think about meaning, and meaning brings money. Meaning brings value. Meaning is the core of it all. So when you do a strategy, think about the customer and the meaning of it all, and you'll get those results.
Thank you, Lebo. Malebo, do you have any input as well?
No, actually, I think Lebo said a mouthful, but I mean, for a recruitment agency, I think another thing about technology and digital is there are so many industries where it's not as practical as other agencies. Other industries. A recruitment agency they need contact, and we're talking digital. But what Lebo touched on is more on strategy and more on value. And I think that makes so much more of an impact than focusing on platforms and digital. If your business or your industry is not as practical as we would like it to be online, then focus on other things, focus on the experience. And I think Lebo put that so well to say that the business thinking of it plays so much more of a role than the platforms that we use. So consider your strategy, and but I think specifically LinkedIn would be amazing to grow a network, and also using your website really well to make the most of it, because a lot of the times we create websites and then they just sit there, but there's a lot of information that you can get from it, that you can use in your strategy, and that can help you in a time where you think your industry doesn't really fit to the digital sphere of things.
Thank you, Malebo. Cass, do you need to add anything?
I'll keep it short, and I think just to marry what Lebo and Malebo were saying, if I look at LinkedIn and I'm thinking of a recruitment agency, I'm huge, and it's linked to what Lebo was saying, is I'm huge on adding value. I'm huge on going a little deeper than your service in terms of what does your service actually bring. And so for me, and it might be a roundabout approach, but I would use LinkedIn really efficiently to sell stories. There's a company called, and I don't want to get this wrong, I'm not gonna name the company, but there's a startup that does recruitment for young people, and they've done an amazing job at really selling the stories of people who've been recruited. They share the journey, you know, so-and-so came in, we had a look, we changed their CV a little bit, and oh, I recently got a message back from so-and-so, and they've been hired by this and that company. The company that I'm thinking of, they did a partnership with Uber. So when people who don't have the funds to take public transport to get to interviews, they could actually get an Uber voucher. And, you know, that really became such a crazy and amazing selling point for that company's recruitment process. And so using LinkedIn stories and using blog posts and writing articles sounds like a roundabout way to market your company, but it's the best way to get people interested in what it is that you do. And someone to say, oh, well, this person seems to have really good candidates, I want to hire from there. And that for me would be how I would go about suggesting, you know, your marketing. I think more and more, we've spoken a lot about, we've touched a little bit on content marketing, and we've said there's so much noise out there, but there's such value in stories, and there's such value in creating community. And recruitment is touching, especially in South Africa. We know the value of a job, we know the value of income and the dignity that comes with employment. And maybe I'm too emotional about it, but that would be my approach. I would really sell on or really emphasize the fact that we're a company that doesn't just place people in jobs. We're giving breadwinners an opportunity to, you know, return dignity to their family. And for me, that's just how I would kind of bridge these two together, in the sense that there's definitely a strategy, and there's definitely, you know, analytics and tools, but at the end of the day, there's a story that's behind everything that we do, and there's meaning. It was such a powerful comment. There's meaning behind what we do. And so if I was in the recruitment space, I think, yes, there's a lot of noise on LinkedIn, but what's unique about the way that you recruit, or what's unique about how you place people, and what's the value that you place on this process of placing people in employment? Yeah.
Thank you very much. I hope the viewer has been answered. And Malebo, with the increasing demand of digital marketing, how do you ensure that your brand stands out?
I think what Cassandra has just spoken about is something that's very close to my heart as a brand strategist, which is telling a story and tapping into the emotions of your audience. Studies today do show that emotion, people would make a purchase more based on emotion than satisfaction of that product. So when people when you tap into their heartstrings, that's where the difference is between you and your competitor. So that's where strategy comes in, and that's where messaging comes in, to say that we are a brand that that will focus on that, that customer experience, that emotion, what's in the customer's hearts, and tapping into those feelings. Being authentic with your customers as well. People really see that, especially in a time where there's just so much going on. It's important for you to touch on those emotions of your customers, so that you can keep them there, and you can keep them to be advocates of your brand as well. So I think that's just one of it, that will make you different from your competitors, is just tapping into that emotion. And I think also being flexible in the way that you do your marketing. Things really do change every day, and we see a lot of brands post on social media really insensitive things, and they you can see that they're not really listening to what the people are saying. We see that a lot on Twitter, and Twitter people have such a huge opinion already, and so brands are not really paying attention to certain things, and once they say one thing and it's just such a huge deal, and South Africa is going crazy, just because there's just that small little flexibility that wasn't in their social media calendar, or they didn't look at it before they pressed the send button. So I think to be flexible and to adapt to what the market, to what the audience is saying. We see it also with a lot of brands that are just not adapting really well. And people usually say it's because they've got old people sitting in the boardrooms, but I think it's just more of not listening to what the audiences want. So social listening, monitoring trends. Some of the things are basically your customer will just literally tell you that this is how I want it to be. So I think that's really important, flexibility, touching into emotions. But I think also the data part of it, which is what I mentioned of social listening, plays such a big role. So the gist of it all is just to be authentic. Look at your messaging and make it specific to your customer and to your audience. It will save you so much money. And I think it will also just tap into that important part that once your customer is your advocate, it allows you room to make mistakes as a brand. Everybody makes mistakes as humans. The CEO won't always be the person who's pressing send on the social media. It's probably just an intern. But when you have a strong and authentic brand that customers love, then there's so much room for you to make those mistakes, because social media is also something that we really don't have control over. Even us as digital marketers, we don't have much control over it. But I think your customers being your brand advocates is something that you should really, really focus on. And that will speak for itself in a lot of ways, in them being the word of mouth part of it, but also in so much more brand loyalty and virality. So I think it's just a matter of focusing on that strategy and keeping it customer centric.
Thank you very much, Malebo. And there's a question from Munira. I think I should direct it to you. Any advice on growing a digital agency? I want to be able to employ other ladies who have a skill that the agency can use. I would love to offer them the opportunity to grow their career and to grow with the company and eventually become a partner in the business. But I also don't have a budget yet to employ others. I'm finding it quite difficult to take on more jobs because it's just me in the business. So basically this person wants advice on growing digital agency.
Okay, that's a very, very interesting question, and it's a very nice question. It's a tough one too, because we all want to have people helping us in the business. It's not so ideal to be the person who's doing everything. You're the social media manager, you're the account manager, you're the art director, you're the photographer, you're the cleaner, you're everything. So it's really nice to have people helping you think as well. I started MLB Digital as just myself, and then I had a founder, a partner on, and then he wasn't on the business anymore, and I just had to carry on. So I took on as much as I could alone, but what I did was I worked with freelancers really well for some time. Freelancers, they're very difficult to work with. I'm sorry, but they require some special touch. So I think I have a special touch with freelancers, and that's how I started. They say leadership is about more about people than about leading, etc. So I think the best way is just to find a way with freelancers in the beginning and form those relationships with them, because then once you get them into your vision and to get them to buy into what you're doing, then most of the freelancers that I started with are working within my business permanently, or on a more contractual basis, opposed to just giving them work here and there. So it was a good point to start to form relationships with freelance graphic designers, freelance copywriters, work with other photographers. But I think also bartering systems with or value exchange with people that with other businesses, because if you have something to offer, and for instance you need a photo shoot for your business, then speak to a photographer, offer them something in exchange that you can do for free in your business, and they can do that for free for you. It really plays such a huge role, and it just saves you so much more, because creating content, it's expensive. Growing a business, it is expensive. You're focusing on a lot of things. So I think relationships and value exchange for me is very important. So also to be the middleman really well between your client and your freelancers. Just really focus on managing that relationship really well, because once you get lost in that, you can lose so much from your clients. And I'm saying this because it's something that I've seen, where clients freelancers are taking long with work, or stuff that you as the digital marketer don't really have control over. And I think the one thing that solves that problem for me is just managing those relationships and making sure that you treat your freelancers like they're your staff. Make sure that they are happy. Make sure that they are stand up for them. Be a great middleman between those. And I mean, the guys that are on my team have really learned so much from me as a brand strategist, because they don't really they are more creative, and I'm more of a creative thinker, and they are more of the art, and so we work really, really well together. So those relationships, if they are managed well, I think you can grow such a very, very efficient team, just with freelancers, and some of the things just doing value exchange here and there. So I hope that answers your question. But I mean, just manage those relationships and just grow it one client at a time. Grow it one client at a time, and just make sure that you give your best to that one client, and also build your case studies as you grow. And once you get that one case study that will get you clients that you want, or will get you where you want to be, then I think also because progress, it's so addictive. And also for freelancers, it's addictive to them because you keep giving them work and they're saying, oh no, well, you know, I don't have to go out looking for work anymore. They don't really know how to look for work. So you keep on giving them work and you're saying, okay, here's a rebrand that we need to work on for a client. And they're like, okay, this is exciting. And, you know, you take them through the strategic thinking of it and they learn something from it and they really appreciate it. That way, once you've established your team, everybody understands the communication and, you know, there's just so much synergy with you and your team. So that's my advice and that's what has worked for me. And, but I'd also would say, don't rush it. Don't rush it and, you know, do as much as you can, prioritize it, but form those relationships.
Mahlatsi, can I add something very quick to that, to what Malebo said? I completely agree with Malebo. And I had a podcast interview with Sylvester Chauke, and we're talking about how do you build an agency? How do you build a legacy, you know? And the one thing he said that still sticks with me today is he was saying, marketers are so good at building other people's brands, but they're not good at building their own brand. And what you have to understand is that when people work for you, they work for you because they're buying into your vision, they're buying into your brand, you know? And if your brand is solid enough, people will work with you for free. They'll help you achieve that vision because they know what's in it for them when you reach your goals and you achieve whatever you're trying to achieve, you know? I found people emailing me, DMing me saying, please, can I work with you for free? I just want to learn from you. I just want to be able to plug into the cool work that you're doing because I'm really about what you're about. I love that you're about the African continent. I love that you're about marketing in Africa, etc. You know? So I feel like as marketers who own agencies, we also need to get used to this idea of building brands as ourselves. And it's not about being famous. It's just about having a specific reputation in the environments that you work in, you know? And the people who want to be in those environments will be watching you and they'll knock on your doors and say, listen, I don't care if you don't have a budget or whatever, I'm willing to work with you for free. I'm willing to help you build this business. There are a lot of people out there. And I think what people don't understand about unemployment is that it's not just about money. It's not about the fact that I'm sitting at home and I'm not getting paid. It's also about boredom. It's about stimulation. It's about feeling like part of something. You know, sometimes people just want to go and work for you because they want to feel like they're a part of something. And that gives them hope to hold on until they can find the job that pays them. It's much better to be working with somebody and using your skills, even if it's for free, than it is to be sitting at home and feeling useless and feeling like you add no value to the economy. So don't undermine this idea that, you know, people can work with you and buy into your vision if you have built yourself as a brand and people, you know, see that brand and want to take part in this movement that you're trying to create, because companies should be movements. A business shouldn't be something that you're just opening because you want to make money. It should have a purpose. It should be a movement. It should be changing something specific in society. You know, the existence of your business should be making the world a different place. Yeah, that's my 2 cents to that.
Thank you very much, Lebo. So what are the tools that you can suggest to to social entrepreneurs? Because right now that industry is really booming. Everyone wants to be an Instagram influencer. Everyone wants to open a YouTube channel. Everyone wants, you know, and I've seen on Twitter as well that a lot of people say everyone is doing the same thing. Is that a bad thing that everyone is doing the same thing? Or is it actually a good thing? And for SMEs, in regards to, because everyone is running into YouTube, Instagram, YouTube, all of that, how will that be beneficial for their businesses?
Well, I think, and thank you for asking me this question, because it's a conversation I've been having with a few of my industry peers, and we've all been perplexed by the idea that people think that a social entrepreneur is somebody who makes money on social media. That's completely false, guys. That is not a social entrepreneur, okay? A social entrepreneur is usually an entrepreneur who has a business that can solve a problem in a community. Like, let's say you're living in rural KwaZulu-Natal and kids keep getting run over by cars because when they leave school, they leave late. and the cars don't see them. If you're designing a backpack for the children that has lights on them so that cars don't run them over, that's social entrepreneurship. Being an entrepreneur on social media is just being an entrepreneur on social media. Being an influencer on social media is not being an entrepreneur on social media unless you're actually selling something else other than your influence on social media. Then you can be an entrepreneur on social media, but you are not a social entrepreneur. There's no such thing. It's not a thing. Like, you can't call yourself a social entrepreneur because you are selling things on social media, or you sell your influence to brands on social media. That's not social entrepreneurship. So I think we just need to make sure that we're all on the same page with that, because we need to understand that, you know. But if you are an influencer, and an influencer is somebody who has a community that is of value and that brands can plug into or businesses can plug into to achieve some kind of marketing objective, whether that's awareness, whether that's brand building, whatever it may be, that's what an influencer is. They have the community that somebody else can find valuable to achieve their marketing objectives. So as an influencer, you are selling to brands and you're selling to other businesses that find your community valuable, right? So what you should be doing on Instagram and on any other social media platform is actually working on your relationship with your community. It's not just about the numbers, because when brands work with you, they're also going to say, but we want to see how many people liked the post. We want to see how many people commented on the post. We want to see how many people actually clicked the link that we asked you to post, and how many people attended the event that we wanted them to attend. And it's getting even worse during COVID because all of the events are virtual. So it's harder for influencers to get away with having superficial influence or just using vanity metrics to get by. Vanity metrics are things like your likes or the number of followers. You know, it has to be deeper than that. So people need to be able, brands need to be able to see that when you speak, your audience acts. And the greater the percentage of your audience that acts when you speak, the greater your influence, the more valuable you become. And that's how you secure those long-term contracts with brands. You know, that's how you secure really good relationships with the brand managers who will always recommend you when the campaign comes along that they think someone like you should be on. That's how you build the relationship. So it's not about being nice to the brand manager, even though you should have your, you know, be polite, be kind, have manners, but it's really about the quality of your work and the results that you bring in. That's what gives you the kind of work that people like Mhlali have. You know, people don't understand that. They think it's just because she has the nice photos and the followers. No, it's deeper than that. And brand managers and brands really value the value that she's bringing to their campaigns and the results that they get from her participation in things. Sorry, Matlati, I just forgot the last part of your question. You were asking about, I think, platforms that they should use.
Oh yeah, I was asking that there was a conversation on Twitter about everyone rushing onto YouTube and being an influencer. So is it a bad thing?
Yeah.
And if not, how can people then maximize on those platforms?
It's easy to feel like what you're interested in is what everybody's interested in. So it's like the whole world is on social media because I'm an influencer. So everybody wants to have a YouTube channel. Everybody wants to be on Twitter or wherever. But that's not the case. If you look at the percentage of people who are actually social media influencers compared to the rest of the world who are just consumers of digital content, it's a very small group of people. So it's not necessarily about who is on YouTube or how many people. So it's not necessarily about how many people are on YouTube. It's about who is on YouTube, you know, because there's so much noise. If your brand is very valuable, if you're doing the things that need to be done, your brand is going to stand out on YouTube. And then you become a name, you become somebody who's known on that platform. It's not about how many people are on the platform. The only thing about the number of people on the platform, the reason why people complain about that is because it makes everything more competitive. So it makes it harder for you to be seen. It makes it harder for you to secure the deals that you want, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. It's completely doable. It's just about the strategies that you employ to make things happen. And also, Malebo spoke about really well about authenticity, you know, because there's so much noise, because there's so much competition. And even from brands have that advertising budget. So there's a lot of competition and noise. Your authenticity becomes everything, you know. People need to be able to differentiate you from everything else that's out there. And I think because of that, people are feeling like the algorithm is against them, or social media doesn't like them, or people don't like them, when actually it's just about the fact that you haven't found the way to communicate your authenticity in a way that will work for you yet, you know. That's why you're seeing slow growth or no growth at all, because you still haven't found that thing that helps you communicate your authenticity in a way that makes sense to the person who's seeing you, you know. And that's the thing. You have to do a lot of that internal work. You have to do a lot of that brand work that a lot of people don't want to do because they just want the instant fame. So for me, social media, it's not a joke. And if you take it seriously, it can give you a lot of money. It can build a career for you. It can give you fame if you want to. It can give you a brand. And so you have to take it seriously. You have to manage it like a business. When you wake up every day, do you have a plan? Do you have a YouTube plan? What's your strategy? When you make money, do you put away money for ads? What are your philosophies and principles regarding ads and reels? What kind of brand are you? Are you the kind of brand that hops onto every single new trend? Or are you the kind of brand that sticks to one thing? You know, and I think because people are so hungry for fame and recognition now, they don't actually realize that you don't have to be on all the platforms. First of all, you need to be where you are the strongest. That's where you will be seen, because you'll be the most consistent, you'll be the most authentic naturally, and you'll engage with the community in a way that interests you. So for me, my platform is Twitter. People hate Twitter. A lot of brands villainize Twitter. When we're on these platforms, people say, oh, Twitter's so silly. It's all about shaming people and false news. But for me, Twitter is not that at all. You know, Twitter's the place where I've had speaking opportunities from Nigeria and Ghana and all these countries just from Twitter, just from the threads that I post on Twitter. From how I conduct myself, I've been invited to, you know, people who I thought I would never meet. I've been invited to their offices. I've been invited to take part in their campaigns because of Twitter. And that platform is valuable to me. I'm a person who likes to write. I have a lot of opinions, as you guys can see. So it works for me, you know, and I don't like YouTube. I like to consume YouTube, but I really don't like being on YouTube. So I'm not on YouTube right now, and I'm happy with it. It's fine for me. I think a lot of us also, we're afraid of what we think are like missed opportunities. We feel like if we're not everywhere, we're going to miss the opportunities, but that's actually not the case. If you're on every single platform, but your presence is mediocre on all of them, then you're missing all the opportunities anyway. So you might as well put your eggs in a few baskets, or even one, and make it work. Make it work. I think that's the key. Like, just make it work. Be on the platform that you enjoy, make it work, and you'll see the results. And be authentic and be kind. People, be kind. The brands don't want to work with people who are bullying people online. I know it looks cool right now. I know for some people, they get a bit of exposure, they get a bit of that PR stuff, but when it comes down to the numbers, the people who are making money, who have the consistent brand collaborations, they are kind, and being kind is not being a pushover. It's just be kind. Like, just understand that we're all different people. We're all going through something. Life is hard for all of us. Life is beautiful for all of us. We're all human beings. So be as kind as you can be, and even be kind when you're interacting with people in your DMs. You don't know who is following you. You don't know who is contacting you. Be kind or keep quiet. I think it's important for us to note that.
Thank you very much,
Can I just
Lebo.
quickly add to that? Lebo, that was that was incredible. I think there was so much in what you said. And I just wanted to pick up on one thing. And I think with social media, so often we catch people when they're starting to peak, that we don't see all the work that goes on behind the scenes. And for me, like someone who has been such an amazing example of just that like meteoric rise, the consistency was Coconut Girls. Like Lesego has done such an incredible job at starting with her community first. And that's such a huge thing. Like, if there's one thing I could say, is start with your community first, and then you'll see you'll start to catch fire. But she started with private videos just to her friends, like on a WhatsApp group, that she slowly started posting on her private Instagram, that she slowly started posting on an open Instagram, which now we're seeing her doing ads with like Nescafe, and I think so often we just catch the intel when we're seeing like, oh, who is this Coconut Girls with her blonde wig and her twang, and think that's not the recipe. Like, you've missed the entire part where she put together the ingredients and bakes it in an oven. Like, the cake is not a blonde wig and a twang. And I think so often we see that people get that confused. Sorry, I am conscious of time, so I'm just going to nip it there. But I think you made some incredibly valid points with that. There's so much work that goes behind being an influencer.
Thank you, ladies. So right now we'll just be doing closing remarks, and then, yeah, Cass, you can start.
Okay, sorry, I was busy checking the chat there, so I missed a bit. Closing remarks. I think for startups, my biggest thing is do your homework, really start with the research, start with the theory, and a very clear understanding of who and what you are, what you represent, and what problem you're trying to solve. A unique selling point is the basis of everything that you're going to be doing with your marketing strategy moving forward. So for me, as someone who started out from a completely different background and had to get to grips with things very quickly, it was understanding what is the Splendid Group, what is Splendid Marketing, what services do we provide, and what's our unique selling point. As a 100% Black woman-owned agency, what does that mean? How do we tap into that, and how do we present that in the best way so that we're getting the right clients? And then backing that up with as much information and knowledge as possible, and making sure that you're speaking to the experts, because like Malebo pointed out, we do not need to be making the same mistakes. We can sit here, we can tap into all the energy and resources of women like Lebo Lion and Malebo Ngope. And that should be such a huge selling point for technology, that we have technology to give us access to things like that. That for me is the biggest marketing resource. Being able to sit here and interact with young women and experts and giants of the industry in this way. Like, technology is access, and that's really for me like the most solid starting point. And then I will pop into the chat just now a couple of those resources for free things like email marketing, Canva for graphic design. So while we're wrapping up, I'm just going to pop those in. Thank you, ladies. This has been an amazing discussion. I've learned so much from both of you. Thank you.
Oh, and we'll be sending out a newsletter next week, and then we'll those resources, Cass, to share with the people. And then Malebo, closing remarks.
Thank you very much for having me, and I hope that we've learned something. I've also just had a really amazing time listening to Cass and Lebo. So I think just from my end, I think we've just all said a mouthful, and but the key focus is strategize and don't spray and pray for the best. If you do have the resources to speak to a digital marketing agency, or to speak to somebody, and use those resources well, and just take advantage of everything that's happening out there. The opportunities are endless, and find your niche and just keep working on that. Be consistent, keep putting pressure on your companies, and eventually the doors do open, but the opportunities, I think, are just endless. Prepare yourself, do your research, and I think just stay ready for the moment that you've been waiting for. So from myself, and I'm available on email, I'm available on Instagram and everywhere else. So I'm free to speak to anybody and share more insights. But thank you very much. I think we've all just said a mouthful. So thanks, ladies.
Thank you very much, Malebo. Lebo, closing remarks.
Thank you, ladies, for this incredible conversation. I've learned a lot from all of you. And I think there's so much to be said about this conversation and how important it is for all of us as marketers, as small business owners, as influencers. This is an important conversation, and I hope we're going to carry on having these kinds of conversations in the future. I think my closing remark is niche thyself. Everything in marketing for me is about creating value for the customer. And your value as anybody who owns an asset that's online is about the people who make that asset valuable. It's not about you, it's about them. Every time you think about a marketing strategy, campaign, even as an influencer, when you're selling yourself to brands, they want to see the numbers, they want to see information about your people in your rate card and in your, I forgot what the thing is called, the document that influencers send, but they want to see information about your customers. They don't want to know about you specifically. That's just a paragraph. The rest of the document has to be about your customers. Who is liking your pictures? Who is engaging with your work? It's all about the people. Marketing and technology, funnily enough, is making marketing even more hyper-targeted. So it's not becoming about the group of people who follow you. It's becoming about the one person who's following you. So with all of the tools we have in technology, I can figure out what Cassandra likes to do at 5:30 every single day, what she likes to eat. It's becoming that competitive. So understanding your customer is it for marketing. It's it for marketing success.
Thank you very much. I've learned a lot as well, and I just love women-led panelists. You know, like I love such conversations where it's just women, because it shows that, because with the last 3 startup huddles, it was just women as well. So those type of things make me happy, because we can see that there's a disruption. Women are actually making a good footprint in the industry, and also in regards to social media and marketing, most of us really undermine marketing, and this conversation really showed that there's a lot that goes into that. What we see on social media, there's a lot of, we need to respect all these influencers as well. We need to respect all the social media, digital marketing experts, because there's a lot that goes in there. And it shows that anyone can tap in the industry and make money. That's the beauty of all of this. So thank you, ladies. And for our viewers, you can catch up on this conversation on YouTube, and you can also go on our website, www.22onsloan.co, just to, if you have any questions, and if necessary, our panelists can share their social media platforms that we can also share on our newsletter, and any information that like Cass will also share the tools that she would like to share to all the audience. And thank you once again for joining. We hope that this was really insightful and you go home with impactful knowledge. Thank you.